Going live. You're live. Okay. I wasn't sure if I should do a video on kind of, I don't know, dating and relationships kind of stuff. I still might, but I don't really, I don't know. I mean, this isn't just a fashion channel, but I don't necessarily want to get into too many topics and tangents and things, since videos like this don't typically do well anyway, because I guess if you're really, really into work boots, you don't read. I don't know. Maybe. But I had not read a ton. And of course, this is a deviation from my dark academia post where I was kind of making a joke about, well, these books aren't really necessarily academia, but you should still be well read if you want to be, you know, a functioning member of society or whatever. Which again, I guess many book viewers don't care about books at all. Don't care if they're well read. I don't know. They don't all seem like complete mouth breathers just because they have day jobs, but I don't know. What I was saying, I had not read a lot of self-help books over the years. It's not really that interesting to me, and it definitely doesn't really fit in the dark. In fact, that's like almost the oxymoron of a dark academia premise, right? You know, I want to restate that sometime. I wrote a thing. Where did I put it? Yeah, you know, it's kind of a toxic mentality cultivated in a sense. You know, you kind of waste one or two, you know, of your first years in college, or maybe your later 2 years, you know, in your kind of solitude and seclusion and broodiness and brooding and moodiness and brooding. Sorry. But on the other hand, you know, those frat dudes clearly aren't learning anything either. They're just keg parties every weekend, right? So yeah, you know, so it's kind of a joke on the top of a joke, right? To include self-help in a dark academia series, but rather than hold up a bunch of Shakespeare books or a bunch of girl books from, you know, Little Women or Jane Austen or whatever. I had picked up a couple. I didn't buy these, and I had read 2.5 of them so far, and I started on the one and then kind of got bored. And I'm intentionally not showing the covers because I don't want to get into the trap of, you know, seeming like I'm endorsing something, and then somebody reads it and goes, well, that book was terrible for me. I wasted $8, or, you know, some terrible thing happened because of it, and I'm blaming you, you know, like, okay, no. Blame that author, not my video, right, for any misapplication of their lessons or philosophies or whatever. I still have like a couple pages left in this one, so I'll be holding this one up since the slip cover is off while I'm finishing it. And I've read not quite half of this one. Oops, I showed more of that than I meant to, but it doesn't matter. And this one still has like a quiz or something in the back that I want to do. Now, again, these are the self-help books, which is not all self-help books are the same thing. It's just like not all YouTube videos are the same thing. Some of them are like, you know, dating advice. Some of them are like how to lose weight. Some of them are like psychology, kind of how to wake up in a good mood every day, I guess, or how to make that relationship better. You know, the one I accidentally held up, where you could read a whole word. Again, like I said, I'm not trying not to give endorsements here. Is the thing, you know, if you stumbled on the same book and you found something useful in it, that's fine. You know, that's, you know, I'm certainly not trying to contramand and say, all these books are automatically terrible, and then somebody goes, oh, it was working for me, but then he said it was dumb, so I guess I should do the opposite and mess everything up. No, that's not how this works. Don't sabotage yourself out of spite just because, the book had some lame parts or whatever. But in my other videos, my film videos especially, technically that's self-help, but it's more of a how-to book. It's like, how to write a TV pilot, right? There's a formula that you don't have to automatically follow it exactly to the letter, I would assume. I've never really written a TV pilot, like with intention of selling a TV pilot. I wrote a couple as, training exercises in a class way back when or whatever, and I don't know how seriously I took the assignment. But it's a very specific regimen, and most of the time, so it's not entirely just common sense either. Because you still have to invent the characters, you still have to invent the plot, you still have to create the dialogue. Nobody's going to do all that for you. If you're reading the how-to book expecting to automatically have a TV pilot, no, you still have to write the pilot. However long that takes you will depend on you. And so telling you that, I hope, didn't ruin your life either. Include, at least that you weren't wasting your money watching this, just your time, right? But danger in recommendations, right? And like I said, if anybody hates books, they're not watching this anyway, so I'm not that worried about it. The most consistent, or I'm sorry, most, I already said that, most consider well-read a positive attribute. Okay. I'm not reading off my notes as I'm doing this, but now I'm trying to catch up on my notes that I did or did not read yet. Okay. Yes, so we're almost back to the beginning. Okay. The thing about the both kinds of books, the how-to books and the self-help books, are, of course, that successful people usually write them. So one would assume that, well, especially with a how-to book, like if they're giving you step-by-step instructions, like it's a recipe, it's baking a cake, it's writing a film, it's like I said, if you follow these steps, you may not get a winner the first time out. It may not sell. The cake may be still inedible somehow. I don't know. But if you keep repeating the steps and do them correctly, eventually something should come of it. Self-help books are not quite as, like I said, 1, 2, 3 as that. And they're not always great writers. That's kind of one of the things, or they're trying to be funny or clever a lot of the time. Depending on the seriousness of the subject, they might be trying to add some seriousness of the subject. They might be trying to add some levity where maybe it doesn't quite belong, that kind of thing. Again, your results may vary. The thumbnail is Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and I don't have a copy of that I could find. I thought I had 1 or 2 of them around here somewhere, but that was a book I read many, many years ago back. Well, they showed the cover in Reality Bites, and I always thought the book was one thing, and it turned out to be kind of something else. But it does have kind of a storyline that's more of a narrative thing, and so there's a structure in the narrative, and so you can read it on the surface as just that without believing in Zen or Buddhism or even using it as a self-help book, that kind of thing. Same as that movie, The Tao of Steve, way back when, where he calls himself a Taoist, and he kind of is, but he's also, I don't know, self-centered, I guess, self-absorbed or whatever, and his character arc is he has to overcome that. And again, it doesn't really, it touches on the Taoism as you know, not a joke, but a plot point more than, you know, a treatise on, you know, real Taoism or whatever. So Eastern philosophy versus Western, you know, there's all these tangents we could go off on. But the main couple, well, yeah, ones that I was reading are almost straight out of the movie Cocktail, is those how to become successful kind of ones. I had some other ones, but again, since I'm not really showing covers, it doesn't really matter. I hadn't read. Well, this one is more about employer-employee relations, how to be a good employee, but also how to be a good employer kind of book. Excuse me. And some other, a lot of them will be like this one's a bit of kind of team building strategies and that kind of thing. So those may or may not be useful depending on your, you know, personal situation or whatever. You know, if you work from home and you work alone, then team building isn't really a priority for you. But or if you're your own boss and you're just kind of trying to figure things out, you're less interested in that sort of thing. So, you know, there's no one blanket book that I can just say, this is the ultimate, you know, one, even if I had read it, you know, but I'm sure there are some that are more popular or famous than others. Was Art of the Deal one of those? I don't know. And a lot of them, of course, then, like I said, have more to do with dating and relationships and psychology. And typically they're still applying psychology and kind of relationships, because again, we're talking about workplace relationships. Got it. But some of the strategies, like they clearly work better in a classroom setting than day to day. I mean, you can't shut down your whole business for days at a time to do random team building exercises or brainstorming exercises per se, when you need to get a product out the door or provide a service, you know, on call, that, you know. So it's kind of the difference between real world and academia. Again, we run into that a few times, whereas again, a how-to book is a little more gritty. They're usually written by someone in the field rather than someone in an intellectual ivory tower. And that's my main focus of this thing, is they tell you what to do often, and might not be bad advice, but they don't necessarily tell you how to do it. And again, of course, just because someone tells you how to do it doesn't mean they're going to do it for you. But these books would be a lot more helpful overall if they did tell you more how than what. Okay, so again, I don't want to disparage the entire self-help industry as a complete waste of time, although, like I said, I haven't bothered with it as much as I could. But but the funny one in this one was chapter 8, you know, or 7 or 8, was all about how failure is okay and you should learn from your mistakes. And, you know, at this point I've made plenty, I'm sure, but I'm not as successful as this person who's in print, I guess, and has an academic or some kind of career that probably pays better than anything I've done. But then in the next chapter, the whole chapter is do or do not, there is no try. Okay, well, just quote Yoda instead of trying to pass it off as your own words. Yes, I saw Yoda when I was 8 years old or 10 years old or something. And I've since come to question some of that logic of Yoda, as I think I outlined in one of the videos. I don't remember. But I did a video about plot holes in Star Wars, and that may have been included in there. But yeah, so how am I supposed to learn from my mistakes if in the next chapter you're telling me that if I make any mistakes, it's only because I'm making excuses and da-da-da. So it's like you contradict yourself in your own book from one page to the next, and I'm supposed to find a cohesive narrative in that. Like, I don't know. Like I said, they're probably more successful than I am, but that doesn't mean that they don't give confusing or conflicting advice. Sometimes within the space of 20 minutes of me reading. And I have, what, like 4 pages left to go, so I don't know if there's going to be any new revelations in there that will change my mind about what I just said, and I sincerely doubt it. Okay. So yeah. Joke's on me, joke's on you. Ha ha ha. We're all laughing our way to the bank, right? Except not really. But I didn't pay for these books. I found them in one of those little library bins, and I don't know if I should put them back into circulation or keep them for future reference or just throw them in the trash and not want to further pollute the world of somebody who might read it and their head explodes more than mine does or something. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, it's just kind of a whatever video that hopefully is useful on some level. And as always, if you have any questions, put them in the comments and I'll read them, and maybe I'll laugh at your misery. Maybe I'll try and give you a helpful response, or I would say recommendation, but I don't know. Because again, as I said in my previous video or one of my previous videos, it's kind of hard for me to just dole out free advice, even in stuff that I know how to do or know how to explain, such as screenwriting or whatever, when I could be writing a how-to book and selling that, right? So, but of course, a lot of that information is already available in some form for free on YouTube. So I might have my spin on it, but it doesn't mean that those formulas aren't already easy to find, in general. So, okay, so like I said, I don't know if I had anything else to add to that, but we'll call it a day.